Hello, hello, hello. I know that I am just a tad bit late today, but Becky with the good hair, she said I could say that today. But our good friend Becky stopped by the office on today to help us take care of some things. And so we were running just a hair behind. But welcome and thank you so much for joining on today. We are going to get into it. Today, we're talking about I am triggered. What to do when you are triggered by your doctor. My question to you is, have you ever been triggered? And you probably have. Something has probably kind of made you feel a certain type of way about something. But have you been triggered by your doctor? And do you know if you've actually been triggered by your doctor? And some people have been triggered and they actually have no idea that they have been triggered. But when they come into my office and they tell me the situation, I'm like, you have been triggered. And that also, when they tell me those situations, they do not want to return to the doctor that they went to. So it prevents them from getting the care that they absolutely need. So we're going to talk about that today because I don't want for you guys to not get the care that you need because of a situation that may have happened. And so we are going to talk about it today because one of the reasons why I decided to do this talk on today is because I was triggered. I was triggered by someone and I was like, man, now I've always understood that people were triggered, but I was like, this helps to solidify the reason why I practice medicine the way that I do, because I am aware that everyone has different triggers and everyone has a sensitivity to whatever it is. And I have to be sensitive to that and be aware of that so that I can give the best care possible. So I'm going to talk about it today and teach you how to do it, because today we're going to talk about how to recognize when you are triggered, but not only recognizing it, but what you can do about it. Because there is something that you can do. You can be in control of this situation. So, if you are new here, I am Dr. Ashley Booth. I am a board certified family medicine physician, and I want to know who is watching today. If you are watching, go ahead and say hello. Put it in the chat, and I will say hello to you. Go ahead and subscribe and follow if you haven't already done so. And then tell the people we are live. She's talking about something that I know that you can probably relate to, or you know that this may have happened to someone else. So go ahead and share and let people know that we are talking about it and we are getting into it today. So let's just get into it. Like I mentioned, I have been triggered most recently. This is what happened. I'm sitting down and I am minding my own business, enjoying the day. And then someone comes up to me that I don't even know. And they start asking me some questions, and I answer a few of their questions. But then these questions start to become a lot more personal. And I was like, I'd rather not answer that question. And then they said, well, I, blah, blah, blah. And they go into their situation. And when they said, when I, then to me, I felt a little triggered because I was like, well, are you saying that I don't do that? Are you saying that I'm not a part of this? Whatever it was. Then I felt in my system, I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting triggered by this. So then they started asking me some personal questions again. And I said, listen, I'd rather not answer these questions. We can go ahead and end this conversation because this is no longer enjoyable for me. And I just rather not do it. Well, this person, they decided they left, but they were like, they seemed like they were upset with me because I didn't want to answer their questions. And I was like, huh. So this is what I feel like patients are going through. And even everyone involved in that situation having an issue, right? So I was like, well, what exactly does it mean to be triggered? And emotional response to something. And it usually occurs suddenly. So sometimes you may not even be aware of it when it happens because it happens so fast. And then the way that it happens is if someone does something like they can ask you some very intrusive questions. They want to know about this and that. You're not really wanting to answer those. They do something something that make you feel uncomfortable, any of those types of things can start this process and make you start to feel triggered. And then when it manifests itself in your body, it kind of depends on your defense mechanism. So it is, fight, flight, or flight, as we always talk about. Like, what exactly is happening in that moment? Are you going to fight or are you going to fly away? And so some people, what they're going to do is they might fight. And so that might show up like, I'm lashing out or I say something, whatever that may be. The other one is, I am going to just kind of remove myself from this situation. And you either are going to continue to sit there, but you shut down because you don't really talk about it. And you're like, okay, I'm over this. Or you just remove yourself and you kind of, move away from the person altogether and say, okay, I'm not dealing with this, right? Either way, it is a defense mechanism and it is a way for you to take care of yourself. Well, how does this translate into the doctor setting? Well, some of the things that happen is, for instance, they say, come on and step on the scale. Now, how do you feel? Because I have a lot of people are like, I do not want to get on that scale today, or they say whatever it is that they're thinking about with that scale. So it could start as simply and as early as asking you to get on the scale or talking about personal issues that you may have. So we talk about your personal history and then we start to get into more detail and start asking more questions and that makes you feel uncomfortable, then you don't want to talk about it anymore, right? So then that's the way that people shut down. You may be feeling judged and the way that the questions are coming at you, you feel a little bit, judged by that situation. The other thing, and one of the big things that I've noticed that happen with people is when you go, the doctor talks about something that you don't necessarily want to talk about. So, have you ever gone to your doctor's appointment? You went in for one thing, and then you walked out and they start talking to you about all these other things, and you still felt like your thing didn't get addressed. I have a lot of people who come to me and say, their doctor didn't talk about what I wanted them to talk about. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. And sometimes what happens is because you want to talk about this one thing, the doctor wants to talk about something else. You guys haven't kind of met in the middle, and then you felt like you didn't get what you needed. Well, I've talked about it before that what can happen is your doctor has an agenda. Like they have an agenda, and I talk about it in another video. I'll link it so that what you guys will have it. But your doctor has an agenda. Not saying it's right or wrong, but they do, and there's a reason why they have that agenda. Well, you have an agenda because I want to get well. I made this appointment for X, Y, and Z. So then you have agenda, and then it's marrying the two so that you both can get what you need. Let me tell you how this happened with me. I was with a patient during my training. The patient comes in and they were not feeling well. Well, there's this checklist of things that I already had to do, talk about like mammogram and colonoscopy and all these sorts of things, these preventative things that, I needed to address. But they weren't feeling well. So I said, okay, we're not going to really get into all of that right now. But I did know on their history, it says that they had diabetes and they hadn't been seen for a while, which means that they're probably out of medication. Diabetes is not well controlled. I said, well, want to tell you that you are not feeling well today, and I'm going to treat that. But my concern is you have diabetes. The diabetes is not well controlled. And so that is what is causing or could be causing the reason why you're sick or you're not able to get better. And she's like, I just need you to fill my medication. I just want to feel better. So can you just make me feel better? That's all I want right now. And I said, okay. I didn't take it personally because I get it. When you are sick and you don't feel well, you probably don't want to talk about all the things. It's just like, listen, I don't feel good. Can we just make me better? So I said, I understand. And what we'll do is we'll address it later. But I really want you to come back when you are feeling well so that we can talk about the diabetes, do the things that we need to do for it so I can make sure that you stay well. She's like, sent the script. She was supposed to come back within like the next month or so. She did not. And it was a few months later before she came back. She came back because what? She was not feeling well again. And I said, okay, I am going to treat you. But again, my concern is that the diabetes is not well controlled. And so we are going to have to do the things to get that diabetes under control because I think that if we get that under control, you won't be getting sick as often. So I need to make sure that you're going to stay well for longer. And she was like, okay. So I treat her this time. She gets better, and then she makes the appointment and she comes in and we talk about, if the diabetes was under control or not and what we needed to do and all of that. But she was willing to hear me on that second visit, but I didn't want to overwhelm her with saying, okay, we need to talk about, all of your preventative things. We need to talk about your diabetes and this and that, and have you had your eye exam and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna send this prescription for that. And because if you get bombarded with a lot of things, then that can also be triggering for you. And your defense mechanism is going to do what it's going to do. And you are either going to fight or flight. You are either going to stay there and maybe get a little dry with your words and say, listen, okay, I don't want to talk about it. Like she did me. She was like, I don't want to talk about that right now. I said, okay, it's fine. Or you are going to say, okay, you may just shut down and you may not say anything. And then but later you may start to manifest and have some emotional response to it afterwards, to the point where you say, that doctor wanted to do all this stuff. I went in there for one thing. They're trying to come up with five other things. I'm not going back. Sound familiar? I know. So to prevent that from happening, what you can do is be upfront. Like, go ahead and say, you know what? I don't want to discuss that right now. Like that patient did with me. She said, listen, I don't want to talk about this right now. And I said, you know what? I totally understand, but this. And so I gave her the other reason behind it, but I didn't push it. Now, was she the nicest when she said it? Probably not. So you want to be nice when you say it, but you still want to be upfront with it. But understand that they are going to have to address it at some point, because this is something that is going to affect you overall. Like, I have some people who smoke, right? When they come in, they say, I don't want to talk about my smoking. I'm not trying to quit anytime soon. That we don't need to talk about it. And I say, I understand. But no, at some point, I want to talk to you about this because I want to make sure that you are going to be okay. And I know that if you come to me and you say, I'm having shortness of breath, I think it's related to your cigarette smoking. If you come to me and you say, this is going on, I'm going to say, it's probably because of the smoking. And so we need to consider some of the other options. But know that just because you say, I want to talk about it right now, we can respect your wishes, but know that we probably need to address it at some point, because we are going to have to look at you as a whole and to make sure that all of you are well. Then the other thing is, you can talk to your doctor and address it with them and let them know how it makes you feel, right? I had someone that says, do you think I'm stupid? Because I'm not stupid. I know so and so. And I was like, listen, my intent was not to bring that information across to you. I give everybody the information at a certain level. I don't want to talk above you. I don't want to talk below you. I don't know where everyone's educational level is with certain things, because just because you know about this doesn't mean you know about that. Listen, when it comes to technology stuff, I tell people, talk to me like I'm 5 years old. I may be a doctor, but I know human things and I know that process. I do not know technology like that. So I need you to walk me through it like I don't know what's going on, so that way I can fully comprehend. If I say, oh, I got that, then we can move at a faster pace. But I want you to assume I don't know anything, and then we can go from there. So when that patient say, you know what, you think I'm stupid? And I say, I do not. I just don't know kind of where you are. I'm giving the information at this level because I don't know what you know, what you don't know. So that way I can make sure that you fully understand what I'm talking about. And then once they said that, it was like, oh, okay. So I was like, I wasn't doing this because I thought a certain thing about you. I just presented the information because I want you to have a full understanding of it. So know that your provider, what they're doing may not necessarily be intentional. If you don't speak up about it, how are they supposed to fix it? So go ahead and say something. Then up front, you have addressed it. You are nice when you do that. You do all of that, and they're still like, oh, whatever, and they're still doing what they're going to do. then it's time to find someone else. That's just how it is. Because if you know that if you go and you talk to them, they're not respecting your wishes and your boundaries at that point, then it sounds like it is now time for you to find someone else so that you can get the care that you deserve. Because what I do know is that I have seen people shut down, and they have shut down to the point where they say, I'm not going back to that doctor. Now, listen, hear me. I am primary care. There are only so many things I can do. And because I have the time, I'm able to do a lot more than most primary care doctors are able to do because I have the time to do it. But at some point, you are going to need a specialist because I have not been trained in that to that capacity. And if you get to that specialist and you feel like you guys are not clicking or whatever, then we're going to run out of options at a point. And you're going to run out of people that you can see who can truly take care of the thing that you have going on. I had one patient that had something that was going on, and she said, I didn't like the way he talked to me. I said, but was the information that you needed? And she was like, well, yeah, I guess it was. So the point of this is for you to get well. I'm not saying we let people talk to us any kind of way. Not saying that at all. But I am saying that if you that person may not even realize how they spoke to you. And sometimes if we just tell people, then they are more likely to be like, okay, I respect what you're saying, and I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. The other issue is like providers that are coming into the room and they're shuffling and doing the things real fast and they're getting ready to rush and bustle out. Sometimes they don't even know that they are doing it because they are just in the hustle and bustle of the day and they're just going through the motions, unfortunately, sometimes. And sometimes it may take you to get them to stop and say, hey, I feel like you spend a lot of time looking at your computer. That's triggering for me because it tells me paying attention to me. So I would appreciate if you could get me a little bit better because I feel like you're just talking to the computer. You're not talking to me. You tell that and address that when some of them may say, oh, because they didn't even realize. They're like, I'm so used to just being on the computer. I didn't even realize it. They may not be able to fully come off of it, but they may be able to now make more eye contact with you because they weren't even aware that they were so engrossed in their computer because they were just like, oh, I got to make sure I get this done, make sure I jot this down, make sure whatever. So make sure that you are communicating your needs with people so that you can get what you need. But just talk to them, speak up, because that is ultimately how you get the best care that you absolutely deserve. So until next time, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Take care.